And now we'd like to welcome Rob Lees from Mortgage Choice Blue Mountains in Penrith. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Rob.
How are you going, girls?
How are you?
Yeah, we're good. How are you?
Good. Cold in here, actually.
Yeah, it's quite
got
warm
aircon.
outside, and
Yeah, that's right.
we're actually in here freezing up, goosebumps happening.
Yes.
So
That's
today,
because Andrew's in a shorts
Yeah,
today,
that's
everybody.
right.
You got to love radio.
Yeah, that's right. So we're talking today about credit score. So for the dummy like me, what exactly is credit score, and what implications does it have on all loan and credit applications?
Yeah, well, a credit score is very important for the lender. It's the way they determine. It's a score they put on the score is really the risk or the risk, the probability that you'll default on your loan facility. So it's purely on a statistical basis, that score, and they use that to determine whether or not they'll give you the loan. So if you have a poor credit score, even if you tick all the other boxes, you've got a big income, you've got lots of equity in your home, very few credit facilities. If you've got a poor credit rating, you'll be declined.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it has a big impact.
Yeah. So what kind of information is recorded on somebody's credit file? So you just mentioned there that if you don't have or you do have, like there's multiple reasons why your credit score could be.
So is it like a credit rating, like your credit
It is a
rating?
credit rating, yeah.
Yeah, right, okay,
So
cool.
I've got a credit report here that it's a sample that I downloaded rather than having someone else's, of course. So I got it from the Veda site. And actually gives a score. The lenders have their own ways of working it out, but Veda here has given this particular person a score of 719 and a score of whatever. But if it's over 600, it's seen as reasonable.
Okay.
So anything above that is this would be quite okay, and it wouldn't create too many issues. But there's a lot of things that are recorded on your credit report, not only your personal details, full name and all that sort of thing. Even your residential history can be there. And if you move around a lot, that can affect your credit score because you're seen as unstable and more risk of default.
Which is really annoying.
Yes.
Because for someone like me, I'm in a house now, but for many years we rented.
Yeah.
A lot of
And-
renters, yeah.
And you're incredibly stable. You're only moving because you live in a rented accommodation and you're required to move.
I get my kids to keep our address as their address
Yeah,
because
smart.
when they're moving around. So it's
Good
not a
idea.
major thing. But it still comes into it.
Sure.
The main things listed is credit inquiry. So every time you apply for a credit facility that's listed as an inquiry, whether you proceed with that credit facility or not. And generally that's not a big deal unless you've got a lot of them. So statistically, again, someone who has more than 6 credit inquiries in 6 months may be deemed a credit risk, and the credit score may be a bit lower. If you've got 1 or 2, that's okay. But I guess they would argue that if you're shopping around for credit, there's something on those sort of people statistically there's more chance that they're going to default.
So, Rob, if I'm sitting at home on the internet and I'm applying for a credit card and I thought, I'll just apply with a number of institutions and I'll just take whichever one I get.
Yeah, not a good idea, as you know, Peter. You've probably got clients that have done that too, as I have, and we get the credit report and they're going through and they said, "What? I don't remember applying for that." So be very careful about credit applications. Just by touching that button, the lender will automatically access your credit file and will be listed. So we do need to be very careful with that.
It's very Big Brotherish sounding, isn't it? Because is
Oh,
there a body
and there's
of
more.
there's a body of people like there's a body where that goes
there's
to,
so-
and is it like just an automatic upload?
Veda is a credit reporting agency, and there's about 3 or 4. Veda's probably the main one. You can't. A lender or no one can access or is allowed to access your credit report unless you give them permission. So you should sign a privacy consent before
click.
or click that you've given your consent to do that.
Because I think that's where people make the mistake because they don't understand because it's on the computer, but I haven't given consent. You've clicked that button.
Yeah,
that's
and
as
so
good
be
as your signature.
very, very careful about that. The real nasties are the defaults. So that is if you've defaulted on a home loan or defaulted on a utility, particularly telcos. Be very careful with your Telstra bills and your mobile bills and energy bills, because if you miss a payment for 2 months, it could be defaulted. And I've had occasions where a small Telstra default of $100 has held up a loan for whatever, $800,000. Everything else is fine, except there's this crazy Telstra default of $100.
Yes.
And the lenders don't like it.
Look, I had an experience in my 20s, in the early 90s, where there was a default on my credit, and it was due to a misunderstanding, and the amount was paid, and I was actually didn't know it was there until I was applying for an interest-free kind of thing, and they told me, and so I chased up at the time Westpac and actually got them to remove it. But yeah, I would imagine
it's a very common story. And I've got a client that we've been working with just recently who my team were like, oh, he said he didn't know that he had the default, but of course he knew because he paid it. And I said, yeah, but they don't understand the depth of that. Just because it's gone to collections, we understand that means it's probably more than likely been listed. But the client thinks they've paid it. They think it goes away.
Paid it and it hasn't gone away.
And how long does it stay on their credit file for?
It stays there for 5 years.
5 years.
Defaults. And these reports now have become more comprehensive in recent months. They changed the reporting, the way they were reporting about 12 months ago, and lenders had to. It's like you share your information and we'll share with you. So they had to actually. So Citibank's actually sharing the information now, and I think the Commonwealth banks agreed to. So I actually had a client the other day, and that's what prompted my conversation about this. And he didn't tell me about his credit card defaults. And there was something there that prompted me to say, let's get a credit report. Got him to sign his privacy, and I pulled down the report, and it actually showed that he had 6 Citibank credit cards still active. So now on here, it actually lists whether those credit inquiries are active or whether they've been closed. And actually had up to $60,000 worth of credit card debt that he thought that the lender didn't need to know about or wouldn't know about. But
so he knew that they were open. He wasn't trying to.
He was actually trying to hide it.
He was trying to hide it.
So, and it also has on here now with this, and this is what I noticed the first time I'd seen this with this fellow's report. This is not his report here, but actually has the conduct there. So it actually shows whether you've made the payments on time or not. On time.
Which is where we're moving into the new world with the PPR, is that? I think it's
that's
called.
Right,
yeah,
that's right.
Whereby even if you're 7 days late, those kind of things are going to be recorded. So people who are lazy with their accounts are going to find themselves in all sorts of trouble.
We're going to have to be very careful, and sometimes the lenders, the scoring can be really badly affected if, for example, we see this a lot when people go over the limit on their credit card or over the limit on their line of credit. The payment is a few days late. If it's a one-off, with an explanation, the lenders will accept it. But if there's a pattern there, they will decline the loan.
Yep.
So these are things that I wasn't aware of that until I started to work in this industry.
So can I go back to my other question about how is all this information being collected? Is it programmable through a computer that it's just being sent to Veda or from all of these institutions? Because you're out in the world. Everything from visiting Harvey Norman with an interest-free thing, shopping on the weekend to
your mobile
applying
phone
for
account.
to your Telstra account.
That's all reported. So it is and
automatically being
you
uploaded. It's very Big
authorise
Brother-ish, isn't it?
You authorise that when normally you give a privacy consent, and you're consenting to that information being stored and that information being passed on to credit reporting agencies. And it's how they assess, really, whether you are someone who they should be giving money to.
Oh, I think it's really valid and probably important, but I think that maybe people don't realise, like you're saying, that you come across it all the time, that everything's being reported, even when you're moving
that's right. Yes,
around.
Yes, So all those, and I just think it's good to be aware of it, and you can access a copy of your report, for example, Veda. If you jump onto mycreditfile.com.au, you can request a copy of your report, which would have it all there. It's good to see what goes in there. It's a bit of an education. They'll mail it to you if you're prepared to wait 3 or 4 weeks. If you want to pay $50 or $60, they'll email it to you instantly.
Yeah.
Or if you
and there's so many things that can impact the score that that it spits out, isn't it? Whether you're married, single, renting, mortgage holder, how long you've been in your job. So all of the things that you do in your life actually now and more so into the future, I think, are impacting what your credit score is actually going to be. So you're trusting a computer is going to make the right decision about you as a person. So you really need to make sure that it was
one of those things of keep it as part of your awareness. Like, as you say, get your own file and have a look at it. Don't hide under a rock
set up
and pretend
direct
not
debits.
to.
That's the best advice I
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, direct debits are important because we easily forget these things. However, we need to make sure we've got enough money in our accounts because if it bounces, you've got the problem occurring. The lenders don't like that either if there's no money in the account to pay for the.
So,
for the
Rob,
direct debit.
let's just say that I did have an incident with I forgot to pay a bill on time, and there is some unfavourable information recorded on my credit file. Is there anything that can be done about that?
Yeah, well, if there's a procedure that that financiers need to go through before they list a credit default. So you can yourself making. I think you were saying, Andrew, you sorted that out with Westpac.
I did,
and and there have been. I've had clients who've been successful in raising objections and actually getting those defaults removed. So it is possible to do that, or you could outsource that to a credit repair agency. Although you need to make sure you go through a reputable one. Better if you don't pay, you don't have to pay it unless they're able to fix up your credit report. But there are some out there that you could access.
Okay.
So there is something you can do about it. If not, if you're on the wrong and it was quite legitimately listed there, you've just got to wait 5 years till it drops off. Or if you've been bankrupt, or you've entered into a bankruptcy agreement under Part 9 of the Bankruptcy Act, it'll sit there for 7 years. Or judgments sit there for 7 years as well.
Yeah.
So you just got to ride it out.
So what can I do to improve my credit score or to protect an already good credit score?
I think, like I was saying, if there's something there that shouldn't be there, get it removed. It's worth the effort. It'll be a hassle, but it will be worth it. And I think, as we've been saying, just watch what's going on with our accounts. Make sure we pay our bills on time. Don't let it run. Set up direct debits. Make sure there's enough cash there. And I kind of warn, especially if you're going through a separation, a marriage separation or divorce, that's when most of these things occur. So make sure that it's really clear who's paying for what, and have some control over that, because that's when a lot of them occur.
That's right.
Wonderful advice, Rob. As always, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
That's great. Now, we just want to remind everybody, our next chamber event is coming up on the 6th of April. It's a breakfast, so 7:30 to 9:30 at Bygone Beauties in Lura. And we're actually going to be launching the new pink chapter within the Blue Mountains Business Chamber. So if you have any inquiries about this new chapter, or you want to book in for the event, which it's already gone live, and amazingly we've had quite some people already jump on that, so that's exciting. So you can go to the events page on the Blue Mountains Regional Business Chamber website, which is www.bmchamber.org.au. Click on the events and go through the booking page, or obviously you can call Julie
in the office. And Rob, if anyone wants to contact you, what are your contact
I'm
details?
sorry, Rob.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, office number 4739 9749.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob.